I've been very blessed and fortunate to have several role models over the years. Start with my mother and father, both very hardworking people. Both taught me to be honest, to work. Taught me how important work ethic is, honesty is, integrity is, and they also showed me um, that losing's okay if you do the best you can, and you can look at yourself in the mirror every day and say you're doing the best you can. Um, Other people, again, my high school coach Jack Bridges has been a huge influence on me. Um, my college football coach George Perlis, my quarterback coach Morris Watts from college, who's currently on our staff. And then as an assistant coach, I've worked for several good people, but Mark D'Antonio, who I worked for at the University of Cincinnati and at Michigan State, has had a huge impact on me as a person and as a coach. He really not only taught me tons about football and organization of football, but more importantly taught me that you can keep your priorities in order, you can keep your faith in your family first, and still be a good football coach and a good leader, and still win and do all those things, but just to keep things kind of in perspective and keep yourself grounded. You two young ladies know every day there's challenges, every game there's challenges, and there's adversity all the time, and you can't go through a season or a game without facing some sort of adversity along the way. So there's been a lot of challenges. Being a head football coach here right now, and dealing with our youth right now has been a challenge. It's been a big challenge. We're going to play 10 true freshmen this Saturday, and I don't know if there'll be another Division I team in the country that will do that. We don't have a lot of seniors in our program, and so we're having to rely on a lot of youth, and that's been a challenge. There's been a lot of times in my career where we face challenges, whether it's injuries, and then you got to get a freshman ready to play. In 2009, when I was the running back coach at Michigan State, we were decimated at tailback that year, and we had to play 2 true freshmen, and we were still able to go to a bowl game and play very well in that bowl game. But that was a big challenge to try to get those 2 guys ready to play in the Big Ten at that level when they were true freshmen. They hadn't had that much experience in pass protections and all those other things. So there's been a lot of them. I don't know if one really sticks out. Every day is a challenge, and it's how you respond to those challenges, I think, which kind of defines who you are.
Coach.
Well, I'm one of those guys that thinks you're constantly learning. I obviously don't have all the answers at all, but I think one thing, as a head coach, now going into my second year, one thing I'm constantly trying to do is I'm trying to be more positive all the time. I think as a coach, sometimes, especially when things aren't going well, you have a tendency to get negative and be negative and act, and I think that really wears off on your assistant coaches and people working your program and your team. So that's one thing I've tried to make a real emphasis of this year, is just to try to remain positive even through the most adverse situations. Oh, there's been a lot. I don't know if I can really pick one out. Since I've been here last year, how we beat Western Michigan here at home, had been going through a lot of adversity. We played a very good Western Michigan team here at home, and got a lead, lost the lead, came back, got a lead, and they were driving down. We forced a fumble at the end of the game, and I was really proud of our team because we just kept playing and kept competing, and that was a special day for us. And as I mentioned, there's been a lot of them, but that one most recently has been one I think about quite often. With our coaches, I have obviously there's always a professional relationship, but I try to create a family-like atmosphere here, and I try to make this a great working environment for our coaches. Like, my son's here today, and I encourage our other coaches to have their kids come in and come to practice, and if they need to watch them, bring them in and bring them in the office, and this is our job and everything, but I think the people you surround yourself with is the most important thing. So we have very, very good people. I think I'm very demanding, as you have to be when you're a leader and you run things, and you have to make sure people stay on task and get their work done and get it done in a timely manner and get it done the right way. And and when we hired these people, we knew they were going to do that going in, but I I think they would, hopefully they would say I was demanding, but I was fair. And I think we have a very, very close relationship. And I think that I can say anything to them. Hopefully they can say anything to me. And with our players, same thing. As I tell them all the time, I just want them to feel like they're being treated fairly and honestly. That's what I tell them all the time. I said, and when I recruit them, I tell them the same thing. I never promise anybody anything. Everything's earned. Nothing's ever given to anybody. I don't promise guys are going to play. I just promise them they'll be treated fairly and they'll be treated honestly. And we coach them very hard. We demand from them, but we also don't make it personal, though. We coach them hard, but we don't make it personal. And we try to respect them and try to get the most out of them. But at the end of the day, as I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of good, very, very good young people in this program. And as I tell our coaches all the time, they want to do well. Nobody wants to go out there and play poorly. We try to back them up and push them and get the most out of them. But as I mentioned before, I think the biggest thing is that we treat them fairly and honestly. There's a lot of important ones, but I'm going to have to say integrity is the number one thing. I think if you lead and your people that you work for you or play for you feel that you don't have integrity, I think everything else is forgotten. I think that they think that you're going to try to do things the right way and treat people the right way, and that at the end of the day, I tell people all the time, whether we win, lose, or whatever, I want to be able to go home and look myself in the mirror as a man, as a Christian, and say, you know what, I did the best I could, and we did things the right way, and I treated people the right way. I think it depends on what the loss, as you guys know, who was the loss to, and how did it happen. I think as a coach, you can handle. You have to be able to handle losing because you're going to lose. You're never going to go undefeated in your career. But I think in athletics, you can handle losing sometimes. As I mentioned earlier, if you feel like you've played well, you've played hard, you've played with effort. As I tell our players, play with effort, play with toughness. Play with effort, play with toughness. If we can do those two things, we can deal with the circumstances. And more times than not, we're going to put ourselves in a position to win. But I think it depends on the circumstance of the loss. If you didn't play hard and you made a ton of mistakes and you beat yourself and you lost to a team you feel you had more talent than, there needs to be some honesty to come out. You need to be critical, I think, of performances and try to push guys to get better. And you also need to look at what you did as a coach, too. That's the one thing we always do, and I've always done as a player and as a coach, as an assistant coach, a coordinator, or as a head coach, is when we lose, I always first look at me and what I did and how could I have gotten better. And I think if your whole team takes that attitude, in the long run, you're going to be successful. But how you handle losses, I think, is an individual case. But we try to handle it no matter what. How did we play? Let's correct it, and then let's just try to move on to the next week. I think I was soft-spoken probably, but I try to always lead by example, and I think that's what good leaders do. I try to, be one of the hardest workers on our team, whether I was in Little League, high school, or college, and try to lead by example in all ways, whether it was how I lived off the field, how I lived on the field, and just do things the right way, as I mentioned earlier. And then if you needed to say something, I would, but I wouldn't say that I was a guy that was going to stand up and talk all the time, because I think talk is cheap. I think it's totally cheap, and I think actions speak louder than words. Absolutely, I can say the most rewarding thing is having an impact on the players and the coaches. For example, I got a text message today from J.U. Colcrick, who was a running back at Michigan State, who I coached in 2007, and he's texting me to see how I'm doing, and that's why I coach, to have an impact on people. And as you guys know, when you coach somebody, it's more than just teaching them how to take a 3-step drop or carry a football or run a route or how to, your first touch or, whatever it is. There's more to it than that. That's very important, obviously, but we try to have a greater impact on them as people in their lives. And I think that's the most rewarding things is, watching a young man who maybe gets to college and he's very immature and he's not doing things right, and you watch him grow up, and by the time he's a senior, all of a sudden now he's got a 3.0 and he's going to class, and when he leaves, you can feel good that you steered them in the right direction, got the most out of them, and that they're going to be successful people, whatever they may do. 95% of them aren't going to play football when they leave here. They're going to get a job doing this. They're going to be a father. They're going to be a husband. So I think the most rewarding thing you can do as a coach is have a positive impact on young people away from football and be a good role model for them. And hopefully the discipline and all those things you've instilled in them will help them become better husbands and better fathers when they leave here.